A famous translator, Chao Hai, once said this: "There are books that, even at 78 or 10 years old, still feel very young." This is truly a perfect statement to describe the fairy tale for adults, the masterpiece, The Little Prince. This is also a book that has deeply moved and profoundly influenced me. Behind every fairy tale it brings, we come to recognize the nature of desire, which exists within every person in the adult world. And though it may seem like a thin book with simple words, it is, in fact, a remedy that soothes the soul for the entire world. After reading it from childhood, we come to understand that the deepest wisdom is often hidden within the purest hearts. Let us shed the external layers. The Little Prince lives on planet B612, a tiny planet with very few things. Only 2 active volcanoes. Every day, he must wake up early to clean the volcanoes and clear the seeds of the baobab trees. These seeds always arrive unintentionally with the winds, and they are terrifying because they have the power to grow uncontrollably if not cleared in time. His tiny planet would soon be destroyed by the baobabs, sprouting wildly. Although the baobabs could bring life to his empty planet, attract migratory birds, or shield it from the scorching sunlight, he still diligently clears them regularly. And the truth is, our lives are also filled with such baobabs. Clothes worn only once or twice but piled up in our wardrobes. Books left untouched yet stacked on dusty shelves. Discounted items bought but rarely used, sometimes just stuffed into some corner. In psychology, there is an effect called the Diderot effect. This effect points out that we always spend money on things we don't truly need. When you buy something new, we tend to keep buying things we think match it to achieve a state of psychological balance. A simple example would be, you buy a new outfit and suddenly realize you need a pair of shoes or a handbag to go with it. You buy a sofa set and then notice that the living room decor doesn't match, so you have to change it. In this era of material desires, we are unconsciously swept up in the trend of overconsumption. Rarely do we think of simply reducing or letting go. Instead, we always want to accumulate, upgrade, and create more of these material things. The author of the book Minimalist Living, Akirawa Mayumi, once said, "Owning something means we must expend our own energy on it, though we are rarely aware of this. Whether life is wonderful or not doesn't depend on how much you own, but on how much time you have to make yourself happy. If our human hearts are day by day obscured by material desires, and we keep chasing after them relentlessly, then perhaps unknowingly, we will miss the happiness in our present lives, and worse, it will leave us exhausted, drained, and more miserable. To find the true essence of life, we must shed the external layers and regularly clear the baobabs in our own lives, letting go of desires." Before arriving at his experience on Earth, the Little Prince traveled through 6 small planets and met 6 peculiar adults. The first adult he encountered was a king living on a planet where he was the sole ruler. The king issued strict decrees to imaginary subjects like a nail. He fixed himself to his throne, clutching his scepter with both hands all day, never moving a step. Seeing this, the Little Prince was frightened and quickly bid farewell. Another adult the Little Prince met was an eccentric businessman. He counted on his abacus, wrote receipts every day, and locked them in a drawer. The Little Prince was puzzled, wondering who this businessman was working with. The businessman said he was counting the stars in the sky being the money he deposited in the bank. He was immersed in his craving for wealth and couldn't free himself. In this lifetime, he had become trapped at his desk, living like a counting machine. Whether it's the king or the businessman, these adults are not much different from many of us who are falling into a bottomless pit, where the desires for status and money lead us to plunge headfirst. Once we sink deep into this pit, we will never feel satisfied. And isn't that the greatest tragedy in each person's life? When a person has too many desires, they will inevitably become a moth to the flame of desire, guided by fame and wealth, flying endlessly without ever reaching a destination, only to be left with exhaustion and depletion. And we have no time to realize or experience the things present on the path we walk, making the meaning of life even more overlooked. Let go of unworthy relationships. The little prince finally arrived on Earth and landed in a deserted desert. For many days, he didn't even see a single person. He shouted in the lonely valley and heard only the echo of his own voice. To escape his loneliness, no matter who he met, he poured out his heart. But the result was only disappointment. He shouted at a snake, but the snake cruelly wanted to eat him. He eagerly told his past to a railway worker, but the man ignored him. He met a man selling thirst-quenching pills, but the man only wanted to trick him into buying them to avoid loneliness. The little prince tried his hardest to connect with people on Earth, but those wicked, indifferent people only sought to profit for themselves. It wasn't until he met the fox who invited him to the dunes to watch the sunset together. They shared their thoughts and feelings. The fox told the little prince, "What is truly valuable cannot be seen with the eyes, but only with the heart." With the fox, the little prince felt sincerity and kindness for the first time. At that moment, the loneliness in his heart suddenly vanished. Have you ever fallen into meaningless socializing like the little prince? When I'm lonely, I want to find a friend to talk to, but after scrolling through my entire contact list, I quietly turn off my phone. When trouble strikes, the friends I once ate and laughed with suddenly become strangers in an instant. As the years go by, we will discover that the people who can truly be our friends are very few. Instead of blindly expanding our social circles, it's better to narrow that network and save our energy only for those who deserve it. The sincerity of 2 or 3 soulmates is 100,000 times better than the noisy chatter of ordinary friends out there. To keep the heart pure, after parting with the fox, the little prince wandered aimlessly in exhaustion. The scorching sun irritated him. The sandy wind made him reluctant to open his eyes. A few days later, he met a pilot who had landed in the desert, stranded there for 8 days, leaving the pilot extremely anxious. His mind was filled with tragic scenarios. What if the engine can't be fixed? Who will complete the mission? Flights are delayed. Will there be enough water for tomorrow? There are still so many regrets in life. And when the water was nearly gone, the pilot completely broke down and fell into a high fever. Meanwhile, the little prince was the complete opposite. He wasn't worried at all. He searched for water along the way, gazing at the starry sky, and chatted with the pilot about his fascinating journeys. And so, in the ease of conversation, he discovered a water source and helped the pilot escape danger together. In life, each of us will be struck by 2 arrows. The first arrow comes from the outside world, difficulties and failures we often face. The second arrow is one we shoot at ourselves, negative emotions we create. That arrow is always ready to pierce you when your mind is in turmoil and disturbed by negative thoughts. The psychologist Adler once said, "No one lives in an objective world. We all live in a subjective world where everything has its own meaning. If you are calm, your world will be peaceful and clear. If you overthink, your world will be full of difficulties and dangers." In life, many times it's not someone tormenting you, but rather your own obsessions haunting you. The Little Prince is not just a satire mocking human society, but more than that, it continually teaches us how to build and maintain relationships with others and how to treat ourselves. At first, we are all the Little Prince, but then, as we complicate our own lives, we become bound by desires, fame, wealth, and status, gradually turning ourselves into the king, the businessman, or the pilot. As the author said, all adults were once children, though only a few remember it. When we truly understand this book, we will realize There is never a complicated situation in life, only a complicated mind. Going from simplicity to complexity is easy, but shedding complexity to return to simplicity is always difficult. That process requires both discipline and awareness within you. But as long as you resolve to let go of material things, desires, and excess thoughts, you can forge the truest version of yourself. If you find this video helpful, please support me with a like. Share it with those who need it, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications for future videos. Wishing us all to let go of chaos and live simply, to dispel the fog of materialism, desire, and indifference, and to embrace the little prince within you. Bye-bye.